Hi, it's your pal Steamed Hams. Join me as I discuss topics in the nerd world such as gaming, movies, cartoons, toys, and whatever else may have you. You can find me on the socials as SteamedHams81, on Twitch, Twitter, currently known as X, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and as The Unforgettable Luncheon on Facebook. Also, check out Steamed Hams Merchtorium. Links to all are in the description of this podcast. And don't forget to try my new fan mail link where you can send me a text and tell me how I'm doing. Click that link and send me a message. The Unforgettable Luncheon. Nerd comedy at its okayest. You know, when you think of video games, what do you think of? You got your Call of Duties, your Maddens, your Donkey Kongs. All fun little fantasies that take you away from this nonsense called reality. But you also have those games that make you learn. Yep, there were games that not only could be fun, but you learn things, whether you liked it or not, or even knew it. Today, I'm going to talk about educational games and find out where on the Oregon Trail is Carmen, Sandiego, and the Unforgettable Luncheon. Hi, it's your pal Steamed Hams. I hope you're ready for an unforgettable luncheon. Before we begin, a little plug. A friend of mine just had her very first novel published. Love in a Time of Monsters by Kathleen Alberts is about Frankenstein's monster wandering a post-apocalyptic wasteland believing that he's the sole survivor. He finds Monarch, a female citizen of a nearby settlement, and is overcome with feelings of want, desire, and need to be with her. With these newfound emotions, he must come to terms with the nature of the remaining human race. It's available on Amazon. Link in the description. It is in paperback. Now, on with the show. Educational games, otherwise known as edutainment games, games where you have fun and learn. But how fun are they? You'd be surprised by a few of them. You get to learn different topics like math, history, geography, and stuff. Now let's look at a few of these games, shall we? 1983's Math Blaster was an arcade-style game that taught you, well, math. Initially having just several mini-games that weren't really connected, its 1987 sequel, Math Blaster Plus, kind of added a nice wraparound story to all that. Because you can't learn without a story, you can't know. They gotta hide the whole learning thing, Gotta do it on the fly, or on the undercovers. You had mini-games like Trash Blaster, where you solved simple equations to power up a laser to shoot trash and other things out of space. I could just see it now. I hope that satellite wasn't important. Sir, that satellite carried the Spice Channel. Ah, shit. Another court-martial for me. You had Number Recycler, where you pulled the right number out of a pile of trash and recycled it. So they taught you recycling, too. Rocket Launch, where you solved equations to build a rocket and made it look as ridiculous as possible, like a crappy Lego rocket that was built out of just the random pieces that were left over. And, of course, you had the Math Blaster minigame where you avoided obstacles to answer equations and capture aliens. Now, you could set the difficulty ranging from addition and subtraction to multiplication and division, along with decimals, percentages, and fractions. Or make it hard with things like the Pythagorean theorem. The sum of the square of two sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the third side. That's a right triangle, you idiot! Yeah, there were several sequels, reboots, spin-offs, and the whatnot. I had fun playing this game. I played all the time. I had, the low-quality graphics one at first, but then once we got a better computer, we were able to upgrade the graphics and make the game more fun. Be more detailed, have more than, 4 colors in there. Originally it had the colors of, that 90s like paper cup that we all know, that pattern, that weird white, like pearl blue and purple pattern that we all know. If you grew up in the 90s, you know. And eventually I got actual color into this shit, which was nice. And, I used it to learn math, but, me wanting it to be easy and all that, I kept it to addition and subtraction, and I think that's why I'm terrible at fractions now. Of course, who really liked doing fractions back in the day? And I used to build the most awful looking rockets possible, but it was hilarious. Just building these things that you were surprised were able to lift off and actually, hey, get into space without completely falling the fuck apart. But it's a game. It's a children's game. What do you want? Math, surprisingly, was not my strong suit. Like, I was terrible at it at school. Like, I wouldn't do the homework because I just found it too hard. And I was just terrible at math. Then, of course, my dumbass joins the Navy right out of high school. I become a sonar technician, which, to put it mildly, my job was hunt for Red October. I was a sub-hunter. Most of my fucking job was math. And here's the fucked up part. I excelled at it. It's like I could pull these equations out and be like, bing, bang, boom. Holy crap, that's like a Chinese sub or a Russian sub or, a sub dom or dom sub. I don't know, a switch. That's what they call it, But yeah, Math Blaster was a lot of fun. Taught you some good math, and kind of glad I had it because it kept my brain interested in doing actual math. So it was fun, and I wouldn't mind getting the updates. If I ever have kids, teach them like that because, well, I can't teach for shit. So, Now, moving on from math, my least favorite subject. Now let's talk about geography and history, which oddly enough were subjects I kind of excelled in to a point, with the Carmen Sandiego games. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego was released in 1985 by Broderbund Software, which surprisingly was not like Swedish, it was just a made-up word. Initially considered a mystery exploration game, it soon became edutainment because it became popular in schools because, well, you learned. But what I want to know is, I'm sorry, what schools were letting kids play this? Okay? They were not letting us play this at my school because I would have, again, found learning fun. Now, the game centered around you as a new recruit to the Acme Detective Agency, tasked with solving crimes and arresting the members of Vile, Villains International League of Evil, great name, and their leader, Carmen Sandiego, which I thought was always funny. It's pronounced Sandiego. Sidebar, okay? Acme? Really? Who thought it was a good idea to name your detective agency after the company that frequently sells Wile E. Coyote defective shit that he's using to try to catch a roadrunner, and unless they're like a subsidiary? Who thought it was a great idea when you can't even sell proper rockets to a coyote to open a detective agency? Also, a high-profile theft happens, and they're called? Like, somebody stole the Statue of Liberty. Call Acme. No, don't get the FBI or, other law enforcement involved. No, let's call this random detective agency with a generic name to solve the case. Now, like, a ridiculous theft would occur, in which you're dispatched to the scene of the crime. You follow the clues to the identity of the next whereabouts of the culprit, who usually has an absolutely goofy fucking name, like Titus Can Be, Ken Hartley Reed, or Heidi Go Seek. Once you gather the clues, you can request an arrest warrant for the culprit, assuming you have the right one, like you figured out everything about them, and you're like, okay, I think it's this guy. And you request the arrest warrant. Now, you got the right warrant, cool, you arrest him. If not, yeah, gotta release him, that sort of thing. And it was always funny because they had, like, these really, really, like, specific things. It's like, they're male. Okay, great. They have auburn hair. What the fuck is that? To like a 9-year-old, what the hell is auburn hair? You know? Now, this was followed by a few sequels like Where in the USA, Europe, and Time individually are Carmen, Sandiego. Now, I personally owned Where in the USA. It was the only one I actually owned right off the bat. And it came with this handy travel guide from, I think it was Folders or something like that. It was like just thick as hell. It was like thick. I mean THICC thick. But it came in handy. Like, it was updated as far as for the times with facts about all the states and all the cities. So you could use that to decipher your clues, which was cool. All right. And you really had to learn how to play things just to play this game. Like, obviously, I started asking my parents question, like, what the hell color is auburn hair? What's spelunking? Who the hell names their kid Mylar Naugahyde? Which, for you youngins, Naugahyde was like a textile that was used in like the 70s for things, mostly clothing. It's kind of like a leather or something. Now, you work your way up the ranks, and eventually you get to track down and arrest Carmen Sandiego herself. Now, there are some things that bug me about these games. Like, your brain's spanking new, and you just get dropped right into your first case by yourself to fly around wherever and hopefully track down some dope named by parents who thought they were being clever and stole something unbelievable. Like, holy shit, someone stole Grand Canyon! Which, the moment someone says, someone stole the Grand Canyon, I'm like, oh, they can have it. Because, how the hell did you steal that? And it's like, their first thought is, call Acme! Get their best new hire on it. Like, they don't even give you like a tutorial mission or something where you're paired with a seasoned investigator to tell you how to do things, what to look for, or, basically how the game works. Because back then, we actually had fucking manuals for the games. That's why. It was basically, congratulations, you're hired. Now, get to Graceland because somebody stole Elvis's special sock from his bedroom. Ugh, they can keep that. Go and find them by yourself, unsupervised. Also, you're flying around the country for like days at a time. Like, do you have a private jet, a helicopter? Does Acme pay for a commercial flight? Do you earn frequent flyer miles? And why is this villain not just hightailing it straight to their hideout? Why are they like sightseeing after absconding with the Liberty Bell? Or do they have the worst flight itinerary on the planet? Like one of those, it's like, okay, I stole the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. I've got to get to my hideout in Los Angeles. I'm going to get there by New York to Chicago, down to Baton Rouge, to Des Moines, all the way to Raleigh, and then to Los Angeles. No. Yeah, they do that, so you're just tracking them all over the place. What the fuck? Now, one game whose logic bothers me is Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego. Like, how do they get an alert that some historical artifact was stolen? Do they, like, go through history books and just see out-of-place shit? Like, that's strange. It says here that some guy dressed like an 80s used car salesman stole Michelangelo's chisel. Now how will he ever carve his statue David without it? Well, Dave's not here, man. I mean, how are they not causing, like, paradoxes on the regular or completely fucking the space-time continuum? Like, how do we know this shit was actually stolen? You know what? I'm overthinking. Screw this. I'm overthinking. Gotta stop that. Now, from 1991 until 1995, PBS aired a children's game show based on Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. Host Greg Lee and the Chief, played by Lynn Thigpen, otherwise known as the DJ from The Warriors. See it. It's a good movie. I don't care what anyone says. It's a decent movie. They got 3 contestants, nicknamed Gumshoes, as they basically do a game show version of the video game. Lee would come on and describe the unusual things stolen, who stole it, and their batshit reason for doing it. Like, I stole the Sears Tower. Why? because I don't want it to be called the Willis Tower. Well, I mean, that's a good reason, but still, they stole it. And so it consisted of 3 rounds. It's a game show. You had your standard trivia round where they'd ask questions about, geographical and history trivia, things like that. And then a round where you use the clues about the location to find the stolen loot. And it's kind of like a memory game to a point. Like, they had this whole board, and you would say, okay, I want this one. And it would say, not a fucking thing. Or it would have the loot, the warrant, and the culprit. But you had to find them in that order. So, you'd have the 2 remaining contestants and like, oh, I want this one. Okay, there's the loot. Okay, I want this one. Oh, that's the crook, but I need the warrant. So it resets. Next guy gets it. And he says, okay, there's the shit that was stolen. Now this box, oh, hey, look, there's warrant. And then here's the guy. You catch him. Bing, bang, boom. And then that person would be like, look, Carmen's about to go do this over here. And you're like, okay. And then that final round would be the last remaining contestant. They'd be given a map of a continent. Like, the whole floor was like this big map of a continent. And you get these little kind of poles that had, police lights on it. And they would give you clues to whatever country, or in the case of the U.S., state, and you had to go identify it. You placed it on the right one. Boom, you're good. Move on to the next one. If not, you got to keep trying until they say, you know what, fuck it, let's move on to the next one. And you had to get all of these done in a certain amount of time. Okay, succeed, you catch Carmen, you win the grand prize, which was a flight to anywhere in the continental U.S. Or you lose, well, no soup for you. Of course, the theme song, round music, and sound effects were all done by house band Rockapella, an a cappella band. Yes, I'm sure just by me mentioning their name, I guarantee I unlocked a core memory and put that earworm of a fucking theme song back into your head. Enjoy it, suckers. Now, it's funny because I was looking up the theme song just for shits and giggles on YouTube, and I came upon video of the group Rockapella. Well, the incarnation at the time, members have changed around, but there's still like a couple of core members. They were on Good Morning America in the early 90s, and oh my god, were they like they were like a time capsule of the 90s. I mean, the way they dressed, just the colors, the patterns. There was at least one dude who had like almost like a dreadlock mullet. There was at least one guy who had a rat tail, one guy had the hair drapes. It was just like, yeah, this is the fucking 90s right here. Yeah. I mean, those games were fun, and I love the show, and I was like, I want to be on the show because I want to, win stuff. Of course, I'm never going to get a game show. Come on. I mean, I could just see me going on Jeopardy and just being like, I will take the ape tit for 200, Alex. Alex Trebek has been dead. Okay, fine. Fun stepping in with Feb. Yeah, and I'd be going against the ghost of Sean Connery, but Now, finally, I'm going to talk about the actual one of these games that I actually got to play in school. And I'm talking about the Oregon Trail. That taught you about the hardships of the Oregon Trail. Now, the original Oregon Trail was created in 1971 by Don Roswich, Bill Heineman, and Paul Dillenberger for an 8th grade history class that Roswich was a student teacher in. Now, you play the leader of a party traveling from Independence, Missouri to Wilmette Valley, Oregon in 1848. You chose your starting occupation, like banker, farmer, carpenter, which also determined your difficulty. Because the more money you start with, the more supplies and stuff you can buy, kind of have an easier time. Now, you had to manage resources, handle events like storms, wagon breakdowns, party illnesses and injuries. You controlled the speed, of how fast you were going to run, or how fast you were going to go. Were you going to just run the ox to death, or were you going to take your time? Were you going to go at a reasonable pace and stop when you needed to? That sort of shit. You can even hunt for food. which was cool. Like, you actually bought bullets for your stuff and all that for your gun. Now, it was originally a text-based adventure on a mini computer, which was what they call a smaller version of the big old ancient room-filling computers that you always see in like the old sci-fi movies. And it was transmitted to a teleprinter. Okay? Like, no joke. You were literally playing this game on a printer. You type in blah, 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 ration food, and it would print out, okay, food rationed. Now people are getting sick. Or when they had the hunting minigame, you typed bang, and it told you whether you hit something. So, but it was a style at the time. Now, in 1974, the Minnesota Educational Computing Consortium, or MECC, because I'm not saying that over and over again, put the game on its mainframe computer that various schools around Minnesota could connect with and kids could play, still through, of course, a teleprinter. Man, they really ran through some paper on this game, I'm guessing. Jesus. Now, in 1978, the MECC moved away from mainframe computers and started making the game for microcomputers, the precursor to modern PCs, like the Apple II and, in 1982, the Atari 8-bit computer. Now, it still remained text-based because, well, technology, but they still added a map so you can kind of see where you were, because it was like 12 stages, more or less, that were broken down by like landmarks, like river crossings, forts, actual landmarks, things of that nature. But by 1984, the market moved completely away from mainframe computers to home computers. Now, they realized they were going to have to sell to the home market, plus the fact that you now had screens that you could work with individually instead of a printer. So they needed graphics. So it did transition from a text adventure to a true video game. I mean, hell, even the hunting minigame featured actual graphics. You could aim in the 8 different cardinal directions, and you could move. Now, the thing that always pissed me off, though, about the hunting was that you can only carry 100 pounds of meat back to the wagon after you were done. So you shot various animals like rabbits, squirrels, deer, and then you had buffalo. Now, like, generally the deer was about 60 to 75 pounds. You know, the rabbits and the squirrels were a few pounds each. The buffalo, though, was 900 fucking pounds. Okay? Why shoot a 900-pound fucking buffalo if you can only take 100 pounds of that meat back? Like, I would say, hey, you made 2 trips and you brought back 200 pounds, or 3 trips made 300 pounds, because I don't know how far out you shot the buffalo, but still, it was a damn waste. It was like, just hit a couple of deer and you're good. There was even a mini game that they had towards the end when you had an option between taking a toll road shortcut straight to Oregon or rafting down the Columbia River. And this one was a mini game where you had to avoid rocks. Because you crash, you're going to sink, and, well, there goes your fucking party. Now, as I said, you also contended with injury, illness, wagon breakdowns and such, so you bought spare parts. And say you were a carpenter, you were probably able to repair a wagon wheel a lot easier. Now, what sucks is your party members could die, okay, from injuries, illness, and that sort of thing. Trust me. The only thing this game ever taught me was how to die of dysentery. That was fucking it. I think I finished this game successfully, like, once, okay? But if at least one of you survived, you made it to Oregon, okay? And you got points based on how fast you did it, your condition of your party members were, hey, all of them alive, some of them alive, or were you kind of crawling in on your own type of thing? But unfortunately, Portland did not exist yet, so it would be almost 2 centuries before we would know if the dream of the 90s was alive there. Now, we actually got to play this game in school once in a while, back on Apple IIs, with the big-ass 5 1/4-inch floppies. Oh, us old people know what those things are. The big, flat, like, well, kind of plastic, rubbery, whatever you want to call it, things. And you had to slide that in, turn a little thing down to hold it in, and it read off that. I mean, one of those things probably would not even fit, like, the tiniest bit of an app these days, okay? They held, like, kilobytes, all right? And that was before you got to the megabytes of the 3.5-inch. Which I remember I still have tons of 3.5 inches laying around somewhere. I mean, I know a thing about 3.5 inches, but anyways, I digress. We didn't have a huge budget at my school back then because it was still kind of new. Like, we didn't get the computers till like I was in fourth grade. So we had a very small computer lab. Now, when I got to junior high in the early 90s, we did have a bigger computer lab. I mean, it was the 90s at that point. They got more of a budget for it, and they got nicer computers. And we even had one of its sequels, the Amazon Trail. But we rarely got to play the huge amount of games that they put on these computers, which kind of sucks. It's like, why put a shit ton of games on here? And we never get to touch them. What was the fucking point? Now, I will say that despite how terrible I was at this game, the Oregon Trail became a favorite of mine. I would still replay it over and over again, hoping maybe one day to actually make it to goddamn Oregon. Hell, I think I even had a mobile version on my old flip phone. Yes, a flip phone. Way back in the day. The Oregon Trail still lives on today in a more updated, modern version. And a far cry from playing it on a printer, now you're playing it on your phone, your computer. Hell, I'm sure they got it for consoles. I'll have to look. But it's one of those ones that just survived. Now, yes, while educational games were, educational, you could derive some fun out of them. Hell, it was games like these and a few others that really got me to do some actual learning by doing what school couldn't. They made it fun. Well, that's it for another unforgettable luncheon. I hope a good time was had by all. You can catch me on the socials like Twitch, Twitter, which Elon calls X, but screw him, Instagram, TikTok as Steamed Ham's Merchtorium, and Facebook as The Unforgettable Luncheon. Or you can send me a fan mail text using the link in the description. Don't forget to check out my store, Steamed Ham's Merchtorium, for all your merch needs. I just added a bunch of stuff. Go have at it. And don't forget to check out Love in a Time of Monsters, available on Amazon. Links to all will be in the description of this episode. I'm your pal, Steamed Hams. Join me next time when the topic will be something nerdy.